My name is Carolina. I am 32 years old, and I was dying. It was not how I imagined it would be. Not with tubes coming out of my throat. Not with the sound of my own heart being translated into constant beeps. Beep, beep, beep. The only proof that I was still alive. Pneumonia. That's what the doctor said, but not the kind that goes away with syrup. Mine came with force, without warning, after weeks of ignoring the fever and cough that wouldn't go away. When I finally collapsed in the living room, Daniel rushed me to the hospital. Too late. Generalized infection. ICU. Intubation. I had never felt so short of breath in my life, as if someone was sitting on my chest, pressing down. And worse than the physical pain was the fear. That cold fear that I would close my eyes and never open them again. Daniel would sit beside me, my boyfriend of 3 years. He would hold my hand and say, "Everything will be okay." I believed him, until that Tuesday. It was 2 p.m. when she appeared. Marina, my best friend since college. She entered the room with those flowers she knew I liked. Sunflowers. And with that look. A look I had never seen before. A mix of guilt and something else. "How is she?" she asked him, as if I wasn't there, as if that body in the bed wasn't mine. "Stable," he replied, without looking at me. But the doctor said he still doesn't know how long it will take. They thought I wasn't listening, that the medicines kept me out all the time. But I was there, present, trapped inside my own body but hearing every word. "You need to rest," she told him, placing a hand on his shoulder. A touch that lasted too long. "Let's have some coffee downstairs." They left, and I stayed there, alone with the machine's beep, with the window showing a piece of sky I couldn't reach, and with a strange feeling growing inside my chest. A sensation that wasn't due to the illness. They returned an hour later. Something had changed. It was as if the air between them was different, lighter, more intimate. They sat on either side of my bed, but spoke as if I wasn't there. "You can't keep going like this," she said to him. "You need to sleep properly, eat well." I promised I wouldn't leave her side, he replied, but his voice was tired, empty. "She would want you to take care of yourself. I know Carol. Carol. Me. The person they talked about in the third person, as if I were just a memory. It was that night that everything changed. It was past 10. The hallway lights were dimmer. The hospital had that heavy silence of the early hours. I floated between consciousness and sleep induced by medication. That's when I heard the door open. They thought I was asleep. Daniel sat in the armchair. Marina came in with 2 cups of coffee. "Were you able to talk to the doctor?" she asked. "I did," he said, running his hand over his tired face. "He said the condition is severe, that even if, when she gets out of here, the recovery will be long. Months, maybe." Marina sat on the edge of the armchair, too close. "And are you going to make it through all of it?" she asked. Silence. A silence that hurt more than the shortness of breath. "I don't know," he finally replied. And at that moment, my heart broke before the monitor could show any change. "Daniel," she began, her voice low, intimate. "We need to talk about what's happening. Not now, Marina. When then? You can't pretend it doesn't exist." Another silence. And then, the words that changed everything. "I never wanted it to be like this," he said. "I never imagined I would feel that we would." "Neither did I," she replied. "But it happened. And it's been happening for months. For months. While I was well. While I thought we were happy. While I was making plans. And what do we do now?" he asked. She sighed. "We wait. We stay here for her. But after that, we deserve a chance, Daniel. For real. Without guilt. Without lies." He didn't respond. Not with words. But I heard the movement. The sound of bodies getting closer. A kiss, perhaps, or a hug. I couldn't see, but I could feel the betrayal floating in the air like a toxic perfume. That night was the longest of my life, longer than all the nights in the ICU, because it was the night I realized that even if my body survived, something in me had already died. The next morning I woke up to voices. The doctor, a nurse, and Daniel. "We're seeing an improvement in pulmonary function," the doctor said. "If this continues, we might try removing the tube in a few days." "How long until she can go home?" Daniel asked. His voice did not hold relief. It held urgency. "Impossible to say right now. Even after extubation, she will need intensive care, respiratory therapy, constant monitoring." "But will she be okay?" Daniel insisted. "If everything goes as we hope, yes. But the road is still long. Long." The word hung in the air, and I saw, even without being able to fully open my eyes, his expression change. It wasn't the expression of someone relieved to know that a loved one will survive. It was the expression of someone calculating how much longer they would need to pretend. Later that day, Marina came back. She looked different. Hair done, new lipstick, stronger perfume. It wasn't a visit for a sick friend. It was a date. They whispered near the window. They thought they were being discreet, that I wouldn't notice. But even confined to that bed, even with tubes invading me, my senses were sharper than ever. "I found an apartment," she said, so low I almost didn't hear. "Near your work. We can see it whenever you want. An apartment, plans, future, while I fought to breathe in the present." "Isn't it too soon?" he asked. "After 3 months hiding? After what we've been through?" "No, it's not too soon. It's just complicated. Complicated." That's how they defined my existence now. A complication. "When she gets better," he began, "I'll have to tell her. I can't just—" "I know," she interrupted. "I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying that when all this is over, we deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy, Daniel. To be happy. As if you were a prisoner. As if I were the cell." That night, for the first time since I entered the hospital, I cried. Not with tears. The tube didn't allow it. I cried inside. A silent cry that no one saw. No one heard. No one consoled. And it was at that moment, alone in the darkness of the room, that I made a decision. I wasn't going to die. I wasn't going to give up. Not for them. For me. Because suddenly surviving became the best revenge I could have. 3 days later, the tube came out. The first breath on my own was like being born again. Painful. Scary. Liberating. "Welcome back," said Nurse Anna, adjusting the oxygen that was still going into my nose. Her voice was the only sincere one in that room. Daniel was there, of course, with the same rehearsed smile, with the same empty words of relief, but his eyes betrayed him. They looked at the clock, at the door, anywhere but at me. "You need to rest," he said, running his hand through my hair, a gesture that used to bring me comfort and now made me nauseous. "I'll get some coffee and be right back." He left, grabbed his cell phone, typed something quickly. To her, no doubt. "Your friend has been coming every day," Anna commented while checking my vital signs. "The one with short hair. Very dedicated. Dedicated. If only she knew." "How long?" I managed to ask, my voice hoarse, strange after days without use. "Until you fully recover? It will still take some time, dear. Your lungs have been through a lot." "No," I insisted, each word costing an effort. "How long they stay here? Together?" Anna paused. She looked at me. She understood. "Most of the day," she replied, with that honesty of someone who sees more than they should during their shifts. "Sometimes they go out together. They come back together." I just closed my eyes. Not even the morphine could relieve this specific pain. "Do you want me to talk to the hospital psychologist?" Anna offered. "Sometimes it helps to talk to someone. No, I cut in. I just need to get stronger. She gently squeezed my hand before leaving. A simple gesture of solidarity that meant more than all the empty "I love yous" that Daniel still insisted on saying when we were alone. The following days were a test, not only for my body, but for my sanity. I watched, powerless, the theater that unfolded around me. Daniel, the devoted boyfriend when there were witnesses. Marina, the concerned friend who brought books I couldn't read, food I couldn't eat, and in the moments when they thought I was asleep, the looks, the accidental touches, the messages exchanged while they were in the same room, the blatant intimacy of those who shared much more than secrets. A week after leaving the ICU, I got pneumonia again, a secondary infection, the doctors said. My body was still weak, vulnerable. I went back on heavy antibiotics, to constant oxygen, to the fear that this time I wouldn't be able to come back. It was during this relapse that I overheard the conversation that completely destroyed me. Daniel was in the hallway with the doctor. I could hear their voices through the slightly open door. "Doctor, being realistic, when will she be able to be discharged?" "As I said before, Mr. Daniel, your girlfriend's recovery won't be quick. This second infection has complicated things. We're looking at least another 3 weeks here, and then a long recovery period at home." "And will she need special care? A nurse? Someone to stay with her full time?" He wasn't asking out of concern. He was calculating how much it would cost to get rid of me, outsourcing the problem. At first, yes. She won't be able to be alone. She'll need help even for basic tasks. Daily respiratory physiotherapy. Medication at the correct times. A heavy sigh. A frustration, not concern. "I understand. Is there any specialized institution? Someplace where she can receive this care while she recovers?" My already fragile heart seemed to stop. He wanted to institutionalize me somewhere, to deposit me like an inconvenient package while he built his new life with Marina. There are rehabilitation centers, yes. But honestly, Mr. Daniel, the family environment, the emotional support of close people, makes all the difference in recovery. Sure, he replied quickly. "I'm just considering all options. For her good, you know. For my good." The final lie. When he returned to the room, I couldn't look at him. I pretended to sleep. And for the first time since I got sick, I thanked the machines around me. They were cold, impersonal, but at least they were honest. They beeped when something was wrong. They showed real numbers. They didn't promise love while planning abandonment. That same night, Marina showed up. She was different, nervous, guilty maybe. "How is she?" she asked Daniel, as always talking about me in the third person. "Stable, but she had a setback. It'll take longer than we thought." They didn't know I was awake, that I heard every word, every sigh, every loaded silence. "Daniel," she began, her voice trembling, "we need to resolve this. I can't take this situation anymore. What do you want me to do? Should I break up with her now, while she's like this? No, of course not. I'm not a monster, but I can't wait indefinitely either. The apartment owner wants an answer by next week." I know, he replied, running his hands through his hair in frustration. Maybe I can talk to her mother, explain the situation, see if she can come take care of Carol when she's discharged. My mother, who died 3 years ago, whom he met at the funeral, whom he knows very well is no longer here. "Your mother died, Daniel," Marina said, confused. "Her mother, Carol's mother." A pause. "Her mother also died, 3 years ago. You went to the funeral with me, remember?" He had forgotten. 3 years together, and he had forgotten one of the most painful events of my life. It was at that moment I realized he was not only cheating on me now, he had never truly seen me. He had never truly cared. Damn, that's right. Damn. And the father? He lives in the South. They barely talk. Another pause. Longer. Heavier. Does she have a good health plan? One that covers home care or something like that? Marina sighed. Daniel, we shouldn't be having this conversation. Not like this. And how do you want it to be? We're stuck in this situation. I can't just abandon her in this state. But I also can't keep pretending. Every day here is killing me. Killing him. While I was the one struggling to breathe. I'm suffering too, Marina said, her voice almost a whisper. Coming here every day, looking at her, remembering everything we went through together, feeling what I feel. I know, he replied. I know. I heard the sound of footsteps approaching, moving away from the bed, closer to the window, and then the unmistakable sound of a kiss. Not quick, not guilty, lingering, deep, as if they were thirsty for each other. I love you, he said to her. The same words he said to me, with the same voice, maybe with the same emptiness. I love you too, she replied, and we will sort this out. Together, as always, as always. How long had always existed for them? While I believed in my own always with Daniel, they continued talking, making plans, exchanging promises, and I kept pretending to sleep, because the truth was that I didn't have the strength to face that reality. Not yet. But that night, something changed inside me. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was a sharp clarity, the certainty that I needed to survive not for them, not despite them, but beyond them. The next day, when the physiotherapist came to help me with breathing exercises, I asked for something I hadn't requested before. I want to try to get up, walk a little. She seemed surprised. Are you sure, Carolina? Isn't it better to wait a few more days? No, I replied, with more firmness than I felt. I need to start recovering. Now. She smiled, not understanding my real urgency. That's the spirit. Let's take it slow, okay? That day, I took exactly 7 steps. Painful, exhausting, liberating. 7 steps away from the bed. 7 steps away from the Carolina they thought they could discard. Daniel wasn't there to see. He had gone to sort out some work things. Marina wasn't there either. They were probably together, looking at that apartment, making plans for a life where I didn't exist. But Nurse Anna saw, and her smile said it all. That's it, warrior. 1 step at a time. 1 step at a time. Away from them. Towards myself. 2 weeks after my relapse, I was discharged. Not because I was fully recovered, but because I had learned to lie as well as they did. To pretend that I was better than I really was. To convince the doctors that I had adequate family support to continue my recovery at home. Daniel seemed both relieved and terrified when the doctor signed the papers. Relieved because we could finally get out of that limbo. Terrified because now he would have to deal with me at home. With the guilt, face to face. Without the shield of machines and the hospital routine. Let's go home, he said, forcing a smile as he pushed my wheelchair to the car. A wheelchair I wouldn't need if my body wasn't still so weak. You'll see how quickly you'll recover in our little haven. Our little haven. As if there was still an hour. The apartment looked different when we arrived. Cleaner than Daniel could ever leave it on his own. Flowers in the vases, food in the fridge, the unmistakable touch of Marina preparing everything for my return. Not out of consideration for me, but to impress him, to show how perfect she would be as the woman of the house he wanted to share with her, not with me. The first days were strange. Daniel working from home to take care of me, always on the phone. Always with excuses to leave for a bit. Always coming back with poorly told stories and her perfume on his clothes. Marina showed up almost daily, bringing food, books, her constant presence like a knife twisting in my wound. She seemed genuinely conflicted, part guilty, part eager for me to get better quickly so they could move on with their plans. "How are you feeling today?" she would ask, without really wanting to hear the answer. "Better," I lied, because the truth was I was preparing, gathering strength, calculating each step of what would come next. One night, a week after my return home, I heard Daniel on the phone on the porch. He thought I was asleep, sedated by the meds that were pretending to make me feel better. "We can't go on like this," he was saying. "It's becoming unsustainable." Her voice on the other end inaudible to me. I know we promised to wait until she was better, but how long will that take? What if it's months? A year? Another pause. Maybe it's better to end it soon. Be honest. She's going to suffer anyway. What's the difference if it's now or later? At that moment, I made my final decision. I wasn't going to wait for their coup de grace. I wouldn't give them the pleasure of being honest and feeling less guilty about destroying me. The next day, I waited for Daniel to leave for a meeting that I knew very well was a date with Marina. Then, with trembling hands and still weak body, I started packing. Not many things, just the essentials, what I really needed to start over. I called the one person I knew wouldn't judge me, my cousin Louisa, who lived in another city, who never liked Daniel, who always said I deserved more. "I need a place to stay, for a while," was all I could say before my voice failed me. "Come," she replied without hesitation. "I'm waiting for you." The taxi arrived an hour later. The driver, an elderly man, helped me with the bags. He looked worried about my still debilitated appearance. "Are you okay, ma'am? Can you travel like this?" "I'm going to a place where I'll be fine," I replied. And for the first time in a long time, I believed my own words. I left a note. Simple, direct. "I know everything. For weeks. You're free now. Don't look for me." I didn't sign it. There was no need. The trip to Louisa's city took 4 hours. 4 hours looking out the window, watching the landscape change, the trees, the fields, the small towns passing by, as my life was passing. As I was leaving behind not only Daniel and Marina, but also the Carolina who allowed herself to be annulled, who allowed herself to be replaced, even before leaving. Louisa was waiting for me at the bus station, with that genuine smile that had always been her trademark. No questions, no judgments, just a long hug that said everything that needed to be said. "Let's go home," she said. And that word, home, suddenly took on a new meaning. The first few weeks were tough. My body was still fighting to recover. There were days when the shortness of breath returned, when the fatigue seemed to swallow me whole. But there were also the small progresses. The first day without needing the oxygen inhaler. The first walk to the end of the street without stopping to rest. The first night without nightmares about tubes and betrayals. Daniel called dozens of times, left messages, some worried, others angry, some guilty, all fake. "Carol, for God's sake, where are you? I'm worried. You can't just disappear like this. You're still sick. We need to talk, clear things up. You got it all wrong. It's not what you think." Marina also tried. Just once. A long message, full of empty justifications, of, "We didn't want it to be like this," of, "We never wanted to hurt you," as if there was a gentle way to betray, to replace, to plan a life on the ruins of mine. I didn't respond to either of them. I blocked their numbers, their social media, their emails, not out of anger, although it existed, but because I understood that silence was my way of reclaiming the power they tried to take from me. With time, as air slowly returned to my lungs, I began to build a new routine. Louisa worked as a freelance graphic designer and taught me the basics. Soon, I was helping with small projects, feeling useful, productive, alive. 3 months after leaving the hospital, I managed to rent my own apartment. Small, simple, mine. A place where every object, every piece of furniture, every detail was chosen by me. For me. No negotiations, no concessions, no ghosts. It was in that apartment, on a rainy night, that I received Daniel's last message. Not on the phone, which still had their numbers blocked, but by email. An email that I almost didn't open, but curiosity, or perhaps the need for closure, made me read. Carol, I don't know if you will read this. Probably not. But I need to say that I'm truly sorry. Not for what happened between me and Marina. It would be hypocritical to apologize for something that continues to happen, but for the way it happened. For what we did while you were sick. For what we said when we thought you couldn't hear. I have no excuses. I just wanted you to know that it was never our intention to hurt you in that way. I hope you are well. I hope you are healthy, and that one day you can, if not forgive, at least understand. Daniel, understand. As if there were something to understand about being replaced while struggling to breathe. As if there were any logic to cruelty. I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted the email. And in that moment, I felt something I didn't expect to feel. Not anger, not hurt, not sadness, but a kind of twisted gratitude. Because without those tubes, without those machines, without that betrayal, I would never have discovered my own strength. I would never have known this new Carolina who breathed on her own, who lived on her own terms, who finally understood the difference between being alive and truly living. 6 months after my escape, I returned to my hometown to resolve some issues, retrieve documents, close accounts, finally close that chapter. It was inevitable to run into them. The town wasn't big enough to ensure our paths never crossed. It happened in a coffee shop. They were sitting together, smiling, holding hands, as if everything was normal, as if nothing had been built on pain. They saw me. Their faces froze. Marina paled. Daniel gulped. I waited to feel something devastating, an emotional earthquake. But what came was surprisingly calm, a simple realization. They seemed smaller now, less important, less real. I nodded slightly, a dry acknowledgement of their existence, nothing more, and I went on my way. No drama, no scene, just the sound of my firm steps on the ground, the steady rhythm of my breathing, the certainty that, even having been hooked to a machine, even having almost lost everything, I had never been as free as I was now. Today, almost a year after that ICU, those tubes, those whispered conversations that weren't meant for my ears, I breathe deeply without pain, without fear. Doctors say it's almost a miracle how my lungs have completely recovered, how my body defied all predictions. But I know it wasn't a miracle. It was a choice. The choice to live, to survive, to reframe. And if you're there, trapped to any kind of machine, whether it's a literal hospital or a suffocating relationship, a friendship that betrays you, a life that isn't truly yours, know that there is air on the other side. There is strength within you that you haven't discovered yet. There's a version of you waiting to breathe on its own. I found this out in the worst possible way, but I found out, and now I breathe, deeply, freely, finally. If this moved you, the next video will move you even more. Click here and continue with me.